Krueger, author of the books of 9 and 10 Penance. And at Sunday, I got done. I can't get this book to stay up. It's Sunday. I got done reading from the second novel earlier today. So I thought this was kind of fun. I did this last weekend. And I always have a lot of people chime in and they're not sure what's going on. So I first read that book online, which is on my channel, and then I read that one. And there's 3 books out. The Tale of Yelazelsky and the Unicorn, that's the 3rd book. And the 4th one will be out in spring sometime, hopefully. But yeah, so I thought I'd do an author talk on these books again. And then I found my drawing of Garden, what did I call it on that one? Yeah. Garden of the Midnight Frog, Land of the Surreal Garden of the Midnight Frog. And I'll talk about that later. And I got my peacock feathers here. And Grandma. So we'll see if anyone chimes in. It's always much funner when people chime in. I think I get more live viewers on here than anywhere else. Yeah. So I don't know if that'll happen or not. We're almost 2 minutes in. But anyways, I guess in case anybody does go back over this and listens along, that's my first novel, The Magic Paintbrush, about the boy trapped in the painting who tells a tale over 500 years later. My first book that I wrote that I was happy with. And I painted the cover of Starry Night, my version of Starry Night, which is integral to the book. Let's see, that one's got, what do I say, butterfly flowers, a tree, paint-breathing dragon, a man with a Picasso of a face, an Escher-like maze. It's a beautiful coming-of-age story. It's a lot of art history packed into it, and a lot of, I just had fun. I do a lot of research. If you've listened to my other talks on writing, a lot of fun with that book, doing research on art history terminology. Not big into the facts as much. But anyways, yeah. So I'm just gonna, if I have 2 people, if people tune in and they're like, talk about this, I'll talk about it. I don't care. But otherwise, I'm just gonna keep talking about my books. That's the second book, The Greatest Storm. That's the one I've been reading from on the weekends. Romantic comedy about 2 lovers separated by an ocean. I did the art for this book as well. And I can't remember what mediums I used. I used a few mediums for that one. I don't remember all of them. That was the nicest version of art I did for that book cover. But they're 2 lovers separated by an ocean. Her boyfriend gets marooned on an island, and before he loses his memory, before he walks through the field of forgetfulness and forgets his own name, he throws a bottle out to sea to let his girlfriend know he'll be fine, but she better move on. And surprisingly, she gets the message in the bottle the next day and sets sail to go look for him. And sets sail on the open ocean, and she runs into Izuzu, which is a tree serpent, and these mermen who are trying to hunt down a mermaid who took their legs. And they're not happy about it. And then there's my 3rd novel. That one I'm most proud of. Well, that's the one I'm currently reading right now. But I was really proud of this one. That's a dark fantasy. And it's about this man's son who goes missing through an evil wall of fog that appeared out of thin air. And this unicorn mysteriously is the cause of all of this. And he's trying to figure out why, and throughout the whole novel, why this happened. And just one mystery after another. He just doesn't quite understand what happened. But well, he he's sleepy. Anyways, his son goes missing through the wall of fog, and this hand appears through the fog, and he's like, don't go wandering through the fog. But anyways, he does, and he falls asleep into a dream, and he finally wakes up, and ends up going to hell, and wanders through this fairy tale, this like corrupt fairy tale, to try and figure out what happened to his son and why this unicorn is there and why his lands have been condemned to time itself. So, and I drew that cover too. That's my hand. So, and that's my piece of art. That's where a lot of inspiration comes from. And that is, I guess, for those who tuned in, I couldn't get it to stand up right, but that's Land of the Surreal, Garden of the Midnight Frog. Let me push that out. Oop, maybe not. Piece of art I did. No relation to this book. One of the books, maybe. I don't know. It's a dream within a dream within a dream. And this frog is fallen asleep and had a dream. And that's what the frog dreams of. So that's how I write. I work very slow on my novels. I don't like. I've been writing a long time, and I've noticed I have a lot of friends come and go in the writing field, and they tend to fast track it. They tend to go through it real fast. They'll write their 100,000 word novel within a month. Cut, print. Why doesn't nobody love me? That kind of attitude. But I don't. I wanted to be a writer, so I chose not to. I take my time with every novel. I do a lot of research goes into each one. I want it to be good quality content. And so I put out one every couple of years, a new book every few years. So the writing and the editing is what it can be. They're all young adult fantasy novels. If you've ever heard of Ray Harryhausen, that's kind of my thought process with these novels. If not, you should go check out his films. I don't know. Fantastical films. He did Clash of the Titans. So, let's see what else. But that's the book I'm reading from right now. I just got done reading, and I said that when I was reading, but this book was comprised of, I wrote a short story collection, 7 short stories, and they all of them kind of merged and meshed into this book. That's the other thing I've noticed with writers, people who think they're going to be a writer or want to be a writer, where they fail is they don't want to write short stories. They just want to write a 1,000-page novel and be done with it. And I always caution that's a huge mistake. Write short stories, and that's what I did for that novel. And yeah, but it had some of my most favorite short stories ended up in that book. The Tale of the Mermaid, that's one of my favorites. This guy's on a beach, and he looks out to the sea, and there's this beautiful mermaid swimming towards him. And he's like, oh my gosh, I found true love. This woman's so beautiful, but why would a mermaid ever, as beautiful as this, ever want anything to do with me? And she starts waving to him and says, no, I love you. Why don't you come out to the ocean? I love you and I want to kiss you. And so he says, I can't. I got legs. I can't swim in the ocean and be with you, beautiful mermaid. And she says, no, it's okay. Up on shore there's this seashell, like this conch horn. You just blow into that conch horn and you lose your legs. but you'll get a fin and you'll turn into a merman, and then you can swim around with me in the ocean. And so he does. This is the short story, not this book, but he blows on the conch horn, turns into a merman, and jumps into the ocean to go chasing after this beautiful mermaid. Well, as soon as he does, he looks around and she's gone. She's vanished. But then, as he's headed back towards shore, he sees her again, and she says, "Hey, hold on. I love you. You're the most beautiful, handsome man I've ever seen in my life. But every girl's got to be careful, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, okay." So she spins him this tale, this yarn, and says, "I'll spend the rest of my life with you, but I need you to do 3 things for me." And what was it? Go find a hook, set a fish free, and bring back to me the hook as proof. Find a ring in the sea, and then bring back to me the heart of the sea. And if you can do all 3 of these things before the 7 days pass, I will love you forever. I'll just smooch on you forever. And so he says, okay. He blinks once, and the mermaid's gone. And that was a tough crowd today. But so he sets out to go find the 3 items the mermaid asked of him. And he comes back to the shore with the 3 items. And except for the heart of the sea, he could never find it. But as it turns out, the heart of the sea never existed. She was just trying to lure him to his doom. But he ends up getting his legs back. The end. Happy ending. But that was the short story, and I had a lot of fun with that. And then it's got all my other favorite cast of characters in that one. But yeah, like I said, like the series of 7, the 7 stories, and they're all kind of merged into that book. And then, I mean, all 3 of these novels came from a short story collection. And that's how I write, which I'm glad I did and I do. All my books come from a series of short stories, and it just helps get the writing going before I put out an entire novel. Anyways, I guess, I don't know, anybody who's hearing this at some point, if anybody comes back to listen to it, if you want to know more about me, J.E. Krueger, the author, I've always wanted to be a writer ever since I was a little kid. I fell in love with, as silly as it sounds, Mother Goose's nursery rhymes were the first things. I was really little, and I read a big book on this stuff, and I do not have the book anymore. Do not know what happened to it, but I read that, and then I just kept reading after that. And I read a lot of simplistic stories, and I think I ended up reading a lot of mystery and detective style novels. Like I read a lot of Sidney Sheldon. And then the guy who wrote The Hunt for Red October, Tom Clancy. I read a lot of Tom Clancy and Stephen King. But I started shying away from that after a while because and then I just started searching for odd and unique. If you ever heard of Alfred Kubin. And so I wanted stories that were different. And I don't know, that's just kind of how my brain works. So people try and recommend books to me, and I always ask, does that everyone know that book? And then I probably don't want to read it. So I was trying and search for something that most people haven't read. That's probably one of my favorite books, though, Corcoran, if you've ever heard of that book. Fairly simplistic story, but I really enjoyed it. So, I don't know. But of course, I'm an artist too, and I've been doing art since I was a little kid. All different formats of art, as you can see by the 3 covers. But I probably like doing this the most, is the pencil drawings, more than anything. But I did these beautiful covers for the books anyways. And then, of course, this pencil drawing here, which I've recreated that piece of art dozens of times. That's, I don't know what I like to do, but I also do, and I think it's on my YouTube channel, geometric art. So I learned Islamic art, geometric art, like Escher, and scientific devices, just all different styles of art, and it was a lot of fun. So, hey, one person liked it. Woo! Self gratification complete. I should just end there. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily haven't shown my face on any of these. I just don't like to. I don't think I could stare at my own face that long. But yeah, I did that and wrote a lot of short stories, poetry, which the poems I write, I've been to a lot of poetry readings and I can never stand them because it sounds more like somebody's just complaining about their day. If you've ever gone to a poetry reading, they're like, this is my day, this happened, this sucks. So I like to do perspective poetry, like get into somebody's head, you know, which is great for like writing. Like if you're gonna write a whole novel, I would recommend writing perspective poetry and doing it from somebody else's point of view. Write a, not like, I always like to do it a perspective of they're in the right. I might disagree with that person, but write a poem as if that person's thinking is correctly. Like, because why not? I mean, and then I can maybe understand them a little bit, but that's how it kind of works with the character development. Like the book I'm currently working on right now, um, everyone's a villain. Everyone thinks they're a good guy, but they're all villains. Everyone in the book. There's, even a couple characters in there where I think you kind of like read along and they seem like, okay, that's the hero, but they're not. They're all villains in some form or another. They got some serious problems, but that book won't be out for a while. But I hope book 4 will be out in the spring. I just don't know what I'm going to do for the cover of that book. But art helped inspire at least these 2 books. I took a break. This one, Fragonard, Van Gogh, Picasso, um, Monet, and Summer Scales, and Vermeer, and Grant Wood, and just a host of artists. And then I went, and that one too, Alfred Kubin, um, let's see, Henry Fuseli, Heinrich Fusset, however you want to pronounce it, Gustave Doré, uh, Jackson Pollock, kind of an odd one, but yeah. But I had to. That's what I do. I don't just write it. I layer it, and I write the book, and then I layer the art in. Um, Especially like this one here, I had the hardest time. There was a whole chapter on Escher because I was like, well, if I'm gonna write this story about a boy trapped in a painting, what kind of all the art, like the great art history I can throw at it and turn it into a fiction novel. So of course it's like, well, I gotta have a chapter on MC Escher. Like, but can it be done? And that took several layers to accomplish. That one, I thought it would be easy. It was not. And then I spent a whole month, which is weird. Like I spent a whole month studying geometry and mathematical terms. And it just felt like at the very end, it was to no avail. But I did end up writing the chapter. Just a lot of the terminology and things I learned didn't necessarily help to write the chapter, but that's what I did. And regionalism and cubism and yeah, I don't know. I've had a lot of people read it and say they know more about art history now, so I thought that was cool. This one was probably inspired more from 1950s films. So, okay. Well, it's Sunday, and since no one's interested, I think I'll just end the video, and I'll be back next week. Maybe sometime throughout, I don't know, throughout the week. I wanted to pull out one of my old short stories and read them on here. I'll probably be back next week to read another chapter from The Greatest Storm, which I wish I would have had more viewers this weekend like I did last weekend, because those were some fun chapters. Some of my favorites in the book. But oh well. See you guys next time.